And these are just the main questions. There are also many small but equally important questions, but all of them have vague, uncertain, and unconvincing answers. Briefly about some details that are unclear and bewilder even the most sophisticated minds. A flashlight was found on the tent. Who left it there? Even if the tourists were in complete panic, it is unlikely they would have left the flashlight behind. It is very much needed in the dark of night. Moreover, it lay on the snow that had drifted later. So it turns out it was not the tourists who placed it there. Who then? A cut ski pole was found inside the tent. No tourist in their right mind would chop up a pole with a knife, especially since there was no spare. The burnt hands and feet of Doroshenko and Krivonishenko are also puzzling. Even a freezing person would not stick their hands and feet directly into the fire. The absurd bed of branches without a fire is another mystery. How much effort was spent building it instead of tending to the fire? And how did people with broken ribs manage to build it? The extinguished fire with unburned branches as thick as an arm is also perplexing. What prevented them from stoking the fire and keeping it blazing? The surrounding taiga is full of dry wood and fallen branches. There is ample material to maintain the fire practically indefinitely. And there are dozens of similar questions. Why did Rustam Slobodin's hair turn gray? But let's return to the main question. What frightened the group to death? Vadim Brusnitsin, who participated in the search for the missing group, reflects, "The tent is your home, your fortress. Who will scare me outside the tent and how? I will not leave my tent, my home. I will always stay in it. If something alarming happens outside, I will peek out, assess the situation, but I will not run out of the tent. Therefore, all those who say that the Dyatlov group ran out in fright from some explosion, infrasound, or whatever, it's all nonsense. It's all a fairy tale. But they did run out. How and why did the fairy tale become a terrifying reality? It is unlikely that mortal fear seized them inside the tent. Judging by what remained, the pork loin they were cutting, the guys and girls were calmly preparing to have dinner. So the danger must have approached from outside. One of the guys, most likely Rustam Slobodin, went out for a small need and saw something. He let out a terrible scream. Why the assumption that it was Slobodin who left the tent? When the relatives saw him in the coffin, they were struck. Rustam's hair was gray. Let's note, besides the relatives, no one noticed this fact, neither the forensic expert nor the searchers. People can instantly turn gray from severe nervous stress, from mortal fear. To suddenly turn gray at a young age, one must experience something terrible. Gray hair from mortal fear. Most likely, Rustam was one of the first to die. He did not reach the cedar and experienced mortal fear near the tent. When dying from freezing, a person experiences fear but hardly terror. What horrifying sight could have scared Rustam so much? Several examples from life about how gray hair appears suddenly. Boys were running across the railroad tracks. One of them got his leg caught by an automatic switch, and the train approached. The boy turned white in an instant. Lavrenti Pavlovich Beria's son was told he was sentenced to death. He was taken to the prison yard, placed against the wall, with a firing squad ready, and given the command fire. Brick fragments flew over Sergo's head. A few days later, he saw himself in the mirror. His hair was completely gray. A mother turned gray before her eyes as her child was killed by a truck. A huge angry dog attacked children in a schoolyard. The children screamed in terror. The girls shrieked, fending off the dog with their bags. The dog ran away. One boy couldn't calm down. Trembling, he took off his cap. His bangs were gray. During the Chechen War, some very young soldiers returned home gray-haired. It's possible that Rustam saw something blood-curdling, saw it, and his temples turned gray instantly. Most likely, he let out an inhuman scream from fear. The terror was passed on to those in the tent. What could have frightened Rustam Slobodin? Or maybe someone frightened him? Or perhaps it all happened in a completely different way. This is what has kept Dyatlov Group tragedy researchers restless for decades. The people in the Dyatlov Group were seasoned, having seen much. They were not easily frightened. I read the diary of Natalia Sharanina, a student at Ural Polytechnic, about a summer hike in the southern Urals in July 1956. The group included Igor Dyatlov and Zina Kolmogorova. Natalia's entry from July 8th. The morning is sunny. Our path to Tulyuk runs along the Berezhnyak River. We walk in a line as the grass is tall, a flat meadow surrounded by hills. In the distance, the ridges of the Ural Mountains are visible. It's warm. The smell of grass is intoxicating. Birds are singing. A dream. Morning is always easy. Suddenly, there is a terrible rumble behind us, quickly growing louder, of unknown origin. We look back and freeze in surprise. A herd of horses is rushing towards us, many of them a cloud. The first thought, run, hide. Where? Igor commands authoritatively, stand still. We huddle together. Some cover themselves, some watch wide-eyed, silent. The herd of about 30 mad horses rushes within 15 meters of us. The herd splits into two streams and without slowing down rushes past us on either side. Quiet, as if it never happened. Not everyone even managed to get scared. We continue silently along the path by the river, which we crossed and made a stop. As we can see, Igor Dyatlov's reaction in a dangerous moment was immediate and reasonable. He gave a commanding, precise order. If the students had panicked and run in different directions, disaster would have been unavoidable. What prevented him from acting as authoritatively and accurately on the night of February 1st to 2nd, 1959? Another case in the Scions was told by Evgeny Zinoviev, who studied at the Polytechnic with Dyatlov. In the evening, when we were setting up tents and lighting a fire, a large bear visited our clearing, overgrown with blueberry bushes. This unexpected danger was announced by Yuri Doroshenko's frantic scream. He, without hesitation, bravely moved towards the beast with a geological hammer in his hands. We couldn't help but support our brave comrade, and with shouts of, "Give it to the bear," we all rushed at the bear, some with axes, some with knives, some with sticks. The bear couldn't withstand the psychological attack and hurriedly retreated, dropping blueberries through himself as he ran. Yuri Doroshenko didn't pursue the bear for long, but returned to the campsite with the look of a victor, a brave, fearless man who had overcome his fear. What prevented Yuri Doroshenko from showing courage, bravery, and fearlessness on the night of February 1st to 2nd, 1959? Or did he, but the circumstances were beyond his courage? And Semyon Zolotaryov. He was a frontline soldier. He had seen much in the war. The fact that he participated in the Battle of Stalingrad alone shows he had gone through inhuman horrors and continued to fight bravely. Here is how the commander of the regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Mukin, describes Zolotaryov's feat in the award list for the Order of the Red Star. Senior Sergeant Zolotaryov, under enemy artillery and mortar fire, ferried 9 men at night from April 21st to 22, 1945, with pontoons and the upper structure on a 1,500-ton ferry. Arriving at the assembly site of the ferry, Comrade Zolotaryov quickly and skillfully began assembling the ferry. The enemy started shelling the area with artillery, mortars, and machine guns. One soldier was wounded, but Senior Sergeant Zolotaryov did not stop working and took the place of the fallen soldier, inspiring others with his example of fearlessness to quickly complete the task. The same shell broke 2 cross beams in the decking. About 300 meters away in the swamp lay the upper structure of the damaged ferry. Then Comrade Zolotaryov, waist-deep in water, reached it. Zolotaryov had seen death many times. Did he, who had gone through the war, really succumb to terror? The regimental commander writes, "With his example of fearlessness, he inspired the fighters to quickly complete the task." What prevented Zolotaryov from showing an example of fearlessness in the tragic night, inspiring others? Rustam's sister particularly notes, panic and Rustam are incompatible, so something threatened them that even caused Rustam to panic.